weekend, so yeah, I know people don't like it. I get it. It's fine. Yeah, so it's gonna be in the morning. I'll set an alarm. Cool. Actually, Predominant, what time is it right now? What time is it for you, like, right now? Let's just do this. It'll be easier. It's 10:42 a.m. Okay, 7 o'clock. 7 a.m. for you, dude. Yeah, it'd be 7. November 7th is the day? Okay, so yeah, we do... Okay, so it's actually easier because that's next week, not this week. Got it, cool. Daylight saving times ends next weekend. Cool. Thanks, Weather Guy. Hey, Weather Guy, I have a question for you. How does a coronal mass injection screw with the weather in any way, if it does at all? I'm asking for a friend. Nice, Predominant. Can solar flares screw up the weather? I mean, I would assume, yeah, absolutely, but I don't know how. Alright, guys. Kerbal time. We got a lot to talk about. But I'm going to start you guys off with a video here. It'd be more of a communications issue. Okay. I don't think it would interfere with the weather itself directly, but enough of one could disrupt satellites, communications, and other tech that we need to forecast. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Be back later. See you for racing. You're gonna whip your tail. Yeah, you'll probably lose. It's fine. Alright. Cool. So, to start off Kerbal today, we're gonna watch a video. There's a Kerbal Space Program 2 video out about the documentary that they're doing while Kerbal Space Program 2 is being developed. So if you're wondering what's the status of KSP 2, I give you Tom Benita.
Hi, I'm Tom Benita, senior game designer at Intercept Games, and today we're talking about celestial bodies. Great.
We'll keep the laughter, just in case.
Yeah, I've been there. That's the needle thing.
I'm doing a crash course online,
Nate!
trying to learn as much as I can about electric propulsion for spacecraft before we go meet, so that I don't sound like a complete noob.
Yeah, spiffy. Pretty cool.
I think you found it.
It's a cool city if you like planes.
Hey! I don't know if they're gonna make me like Justin. Like I reviewed the first time.
Ask people if they've played Kerbal Space Program. I have played Kerbal Space Program.
I've learned that there are an effectively infinite amount of anomalies and mysteries out there in our galaxy.
Oh, yeah.
Even the weirdest stuff you've ever heard of, raining diamonds on this planet or this other planet that has a desert on one side and an Arctic hellscape on the other.
That's hot.
An ocean in between.
Obviously.
There's always something weirder around the corner.
Yep. Space is weird, man.
We add things to the planet's cliffs or large canyons, and you know, a lot of those things can have geological history that explain why they're there. We try our best to have everything we do with the planets rooted in in true science. But at the same time, we want to make sure that traversing these planets is interesting with local space scatter, which is things like trees and rocks and things of that nature. That can be used as a tool to make terrain easier to navigate or harder to navigate based on how challenging design wants that planet to be. Additionally, like the size of the planet, whether or not it has atmosphere, that can all completely change the dynamic and how a player approaches the planet.
We've been focusing on scatter. The players haven't seen this scale scatter from KSP 1, so we're excited to show off.
I think that's really neat with what we're doing is the density of what you can see with like scatter. Like you look at like photographs of the moon, for example, and you see just fields of like rocks that are on the ground. We can achieve something like that.
The planets are cool. Everyone's gonna like the planets. They're gonna be the driving factor, I think, for exploration in this game. There's a huge variety. There's just a lot of motivation to go explore with your spacecraft because of the planets. So planets are rad.
I'm really excited about what we've come up with for a lot of these planets. The joke is right in the loading screen for Kerbal Space Program 1. They have a quote during the loading screen, hey, we're doing this, we're doing that just says, never visiting Dress. Because why would you? It's just a rock. Well, now it's got a really cool mountain range. And we're gonna stash some goodies on that mountain range, maybe, probably. Can't get into specifics there. We don't ever want to say, you never visit this planet or this moon. We want there to be a reason, something for you to discover on every single celestial body in Kerbal Space Program 2.
What about
Part
visiting
of that
Camelot?
is going deep into how did these celestial bodies come into existence? What is their history? And how does that impact how they look and how they feel
Tis a
now?
silly place. Yeah.
Okay, I really like Jewel because it's celestial body where you're on its moons. It has all these moons, and when you're on them, you can see it really clearly. It's always right above you. That's something that isn't really the case for a lot of the other planets. A lot of the other planets, like if you're on Duna's moon or you're on Minmus, like you can see Kerbin and you can see the other planets, but they're so far away. And Jewel is just so massive that if you're on Lathe, you just see it.
The plumes, though, dudes. Look at the
We just
plume.
announced the existence of a new celestial body called Gardama. It's a planet in the Deb system. The Deb system is a young star system, and Gardama is a young terrestrial planet that is somewhat inspired by what Earth looked like during the Hadean Eon, which is close to 4 billion years ago, soon after its formation. The solar system at that time was a very tumultuous place. The Earth during the Hadean Eon was undergoing something called the Late Heavy Bombardment, where it was getting hit by debris constantly. It was a cratered hellscape. In fact, that was the era during which the moon was created via a collision with another planetoid. And so Gardama is our opportunity to give you a little bit of a window into what Earth was like at that time. We call it a proto-Kerbin because it's roughly the size of Kerbin, but what Kerbin would have looked like long, long ago. It has an atmosphere, but it doesn't have oxygen. It is extremely cratered, but there is also water that's beginning to appear. It has recently undergone a collision with another planetoid and had its moon created as a result of that collision, but there is also a residual planetary ring out of which that moon is currently being coalesced. So it's a really, really unique celestial body. It's really speaking to the violence of its current situation. But I love that when I'm walking around on Gardama, I'm also getting a little bit of the taste of what it would be like to walk around on the Earth billions of years ago.
Hey, Joestar.
We were trying to think of a name for the moon of Gardama, and I was just in a random meeting with our multiplayer designer, and he was like, what are we calling it? And I was like, I don't know, for now, just call it Donk. And then now it's still Donk. Like, I think we're just shipping with Donk.
It feels like
Donk.
concept to gameplay is a very
Donk.
high level of iteration between design and art. Like, in some ways, there's some story, right? You're like, this is a star system. This is the story of this particular star. These are the kinds of planets that would be around this star. And so you kind of get like, here's the basics of it. And then art gets in there and they're like, I'm going to make this cool as hell and kind of add all these nice little bits to go find. And you're like, okay, this is neat. And so like we may be responsible early on as design for like, here are the orbital challenges of just trying to intercept this thing versus like, here are some of the physical characteristics of this planet that may make it a challenge to navigate through. And then Art goes in and says like, here are all the cool places that you can go to. That plays actually into our science system as well. In KSP, you can go to various biomes and perform experiments, get science, and use that to find new parts. And we started working with Art to make sure that we were tying biomes to like these really distinct locations that they've been putting their heart and soul into.
We had the biggest argument about the moon Minmus from the original Kerboller system. You know, it had to be shiny and, at least initially, icy on the surface, but had to be at about Earth's distance from the sun. That is flat out not going to happen. And we went through every kind of possible fix. We tried to change the ice composition. We tried to dope the ice so that it was melting at a higher temperature. We couldn't get the temperatures anywhere near the level needed for that planet. We tried to make it temporary, like from an impact, but then it would have to be streaming off from the back, and there's no evidence of that happening in this object, so that didn't work either. Finally, after Googling around on the internet for different kind of structures and cloth rates, we were going through the same research papers together. We settled on making it glassy. So it's not icy anymore, it's glassy. And that's really cool. It's going to be, ceramic planets are a real possibility, at least very interesting possibility. And so now this kind of represents one of the more exotic kind of objects that you might encounter.
My favorite body, Scoot, this weirdly shaped non-spherical thing that is very difficult to land on, that the ends might toss you back off into orbit if you travel to those. Two body systems like Rask and Rusk, where you have to contend with two different gravitational points that are pulling you in different directions as you travel between them, or even in the space that's near between them, and how that affects your trajectory through that system or even landing on one of those. I think this makes things a lot more challenging and a lot more interesting to players who are both fans of KSP 1 and who are coming to us new for KSP 2.
For planets, we have kind of two versions in KSP 2. We have a scaled space version, which a player is generally going to see from in orbit or kind of when they're far away from the planet. And then we have a separate version of the planet that is much more detailed that we use for local space, which basically means when you get on the surface of the planet. For the artist to create this local space planet, we have a tool that gives them the control to specify the height of the planet across the whole entire planet, as well as what the textures look like, how they're all combined, and some procedural controls for when to spawn objects for different slopes, for example, or at peaks of this planet, I want to have it.
There's a tool set for making planets.
Crevices of the planet, I want a bunch of rocks, things like that.
That's a smart way to do that.
On top of that, they have a separate tool that they're essentially placing decals on this planet for features that are big enough that our players should be able to see from space. And so an artist within our tool set can place a decal at a location, which will then affect the height, the textures, how that planet looks at that position from all distances. A lot of my job is providing artists with tools to create the kind of general feel of a planet. So when a player is playing the game and really close to a planet, we only render the small part of the planet that we care about, and we render that to a high level of detail. And then farther away, for example, the opposite side of the planet, no one can even see that, so we don't render that. Then as the player gets farther away from the planet, we render a different version that's more efficient. So that helps the player kind of have a seamless gameplay transition from out in space all the way up to a meter away from the planet. To enable that to happen, we just need to make sure we're optimizing what textures we're using where and efficiently streaming in data and streaming out data as needed. The first time you kind of fly from outer space into the atmosphere of the planet and down to the ground of that planet and just see the visual quality kind of transitions from space where you see the atmosphere, and then as you're transitioning in, you're kind of entering that atmosphere and you see the atmospheric scatter in the air from that, and then as you get closer, you're seeing the detail of terrain scatter like rocks and trees and things kind of fade in. I feel like players will visually be in awe a little bit. I was in awe at seeing some of these planets that the artist created for the first time.
What's your favorite one?
What's my favorite celestial body?
Yeah, can I try to guess?
Go for it.
Is it Glumo?
It is. It's Glumo. Glumo is a sort of Saturn equivalent that's over in Dub. And so it's got like this neat double ring. It's a big gas giant. It's also got like some shepherd moons sitting in the ring as well. When I first joined the project, I came on, I think as we were starting to go through these celestial bodies, and Glumo came up on a show and tell, and I saw like this beautiful shot of Glumo, and you saw the rings, and I was like, this is a prog rock cover. Like, this could have like a wizard on like a cybernetic unicorn, and it'd be totally make sense, and I fell in love with it.
Yes.
Oh. I do have more questions I'd like to ask. Do you have to build your own instrumentation? Like, is it like
yeah, baby. Look at that. Look at that Hall effect thruster. Oh, that's so cool. Guys, that ain't just an LED light. That's a spacecraft.
Like
spacecraft
the rings of
propulsion
Oven
system.
seen from the solid surface of the planet. It is a ringed super Earth. And that's not a thing you've seen before. What it looks like to look at a planetary ring from below, the way it arcs across the sky. But it is certainly a thing that exists in the universe that we haven't seen in our solar system. And I think there are a lot of experiences like that in KSP2, where you might be stunned by the uniqueness of something that you've seen, and then potentially be inspired by the realization that it is a thing that almost certainly exists somewhere in the real universe.
Oh, yeah.
It is really critical for people of all stripes to be interested in learning about how space works, how exploration works, and how science works. So I think there's some real low-hanging fruit in having more broad audiences understand space. Because you never know what you're going to be interested in until you try it.
It's funny you should mention that. That's what I do. Yeah, I know that guy. I know that guy too.
Discovery, go at throttle up.
Let's take a look. The sound is something, Hibbit. I forget what it is though. It's some kind of encoded message. At least that's what it was last time. Great white. Nice. Well, that was a good way to start that up. All right. I'm visually hype. Uh-oh. Did you see that? Guys, okay, so a couple of things there. They have a tool set for making planets.
Bits to go
right here. Tool set for making planets. Yeah. So they can make planets a lot easier. That's actually super freaking cool. And then I noticed one other thing that was on the dude's screen. So look at the terrain scatterer. Remember when I told you guys a little while back that they went and showed us this? And they showed us the scatterer and how the terrain scatterer works, and I said that it looked like something out of Far Cry 5. There it is. First time you've seen it. Right there. Oh, damn, you get my tag on Twitter. I don't really check Twitter if I'm streaming, so if it was in the past 9 hours, then no, boo, I haven't. Check the UI in the next scene. Oh, I see. Yep. Yep, yeah, see? Look, right here. Look at the scatterer. See that? I told you. Looks like Far Cry, man. Look at that thing. Nice, Vulcan. There you go. So this will be as taxing as Microsoft Flight Simulator. No, Scatterer doesn't work like photogrammatically rendered terrain. That's two different things. No, it shouldn't be any more than regular KSP. The Kraken part. Carisibo. Oh, it's a... Yeah, the message. Nice. There you go, Thomas. I won't show it on stream for spoilers, but yeah. What engine are they using again? A lot of KSP1 was limited by Unity. They're using Unity, and you're wrong. No, it's not that Unity is limiting it at all. It's some of Kerbal's hard mechanics from the ground up. All the stuff that made Kerbal 1 work. That's the stuff that messed with it. There are games that are on Unity. Summer Car is on the same engine as Kerbal. My Summer Car is. So is City Skylines. It's not the engine, dude. It's the fact that and this is a testament to Felipe, freaking genius, man. The guy that invented Kerbal Space Program. Kerbal's back end, the whole base, the whole foundation of KSP1, so to speak, was made by one dude. Yeah, trust me, it's not the engine that's limiting, it's the modules that they attach to the engine. And I have it from Nate, face-to-face conversation with Nate Simpson, the guy with the gentleman with the beard that was like, hey, what's your favorite planet in that video that we just showed you? I haven't talked to Nate in a really long time, to be honest. Probably reach out. KSP2 is literally KSP1 stripped down to the foundation and rebuilt with optimized modules. So I'm not confirming anything, okay? This is speculative on my part. You should be able to handle a lot higher part counts. You should be able to handle a lot bigger constructions. It should be a lot more optimized than KSP1 is, because there's actually a dedicated group of people working on this thing right now. City Skylines is on the same engine as KSP, Benno. So is My Summer Car. Yeah. It's not the engine, bro. It's just the fact that one dude made KSP, and one dude made the foundation, and then they built a bunch of stuff on top of that foundation, you know? But yeah, that's awesome. I'm really, really looking forward to KSP2. That's going to be amazing. With that being said, I'll fire up KSP1 here. They just did a second ago, X. There's Kerbal, and then there's Dub. You'll be able to go interstellar in KSP2. And they have the near future drives to be able to do it. Plasma thrusters, nuclear, stuff like that. Looks are cool. I just really want to see the functions of release. It's gonna take some time, homie. Yeah, Umbre. That's the other thing to understand. Felipe was not a game developer, he's self-taught. Alright, dudes. Well, we got some stuff to talk about, mate. What did you think of the 90-year-old Shatner going to space? I watched it live on this stream, Pi. I thought it was really cool. Yeah. The way he described space made me realize something. What it made me realize is that, you know, you hear astronauts describe what it's like to go in space, and then you hear somebody who's very articulate in what they say, an actor, right? It's very articulate to, you know, kind of not put a science on it, but just to describe it and convey it. An actor is a very good intermediary to be able to do that. The way William Shatner described space as the darkness of death meeting the conscience of life, which is Earth and the space, is actually, that's a pretty good way to say it. Space is death. Planets are life. I thought that was really cool. That's a very interesting way to put that. And it's right. He got hit with a truckload of overview effect. Yeah, that's what that's called. Yeah, but the way you described it, I'm like, yeah, we should probably send more, like, artists and stuff into space. And poets and, you know, writers and stuff. What have you done in Kerbal since I was gone? I don't know. I don't know when you were last here. I have no idea. Yeah, OX, yeah, I'm with you on that one. Alright, so we did get the big SSDO flying, and then I went to try and put it back on the pad, and the pad was giving me trouble again. It bent a lot of things out of position. Yeah, maybe Vulcan. That'd be kind of cool. I mean, I don't know, guys. I don't know when the last time some of you were here. I try to keep track of that as best as I can, but it's hard to say. We got the big SSDO working. The big SSDO does work. The thing is that it's just... I haven't really finished all the integration systems for it. I have no way to put things inside of the payload bay. I have to build some type of crane, and I'm kind of worried about part count. We're like probably 90% of the way through development here. It's just working out a lot of the kinks in the design here and there. And the only way we're really going to do that is by flying it a lot. Now, with that being said, this thing is big. It's very big. It is a extremely big ship. It's 768 parts. I mean, basically about 700 and change without payload or the truck, right? The pad that it uses to launch is about 900 parts. That's 1,600 parts every time we go to launch the dang thing. Don't get me wrong. I could do that once a stream. That's no problem. Been gone since around Route 154. Okay, Reagan, I'm not trying to be mean. You're missing the point. Dude, the point is that I don't know the exact moment that you've done. Dude, I don't even know what I did in KSP 3 days ago. Like, I don't know the exact thing. Well, it had something to do with getting the SSDO working correctly. Or not, because I haven't really played Kerbal much this week, to be honest with you. Been sick. So, like, dude, I can't recall the exact amount of events. Like, I could be explaining too much. I could not be explaining enough, dude. The point is like, I can't, like, it's very difficult for me to accurately say what I've done since, before Route 154, man. You're gonna have to check the VODs, dude. And I don't mean to be mean. I'm not saying that to be a jerk. I just don't know. You know, like, I've been basically working out all the kinks with this thing, but I mean, I don't know. Yesterday I was in a pissy mood. So yesterday I was like, maybe we should just get rid of this thing. I don't know if I should. I really don't. Like, I don't know if we should get rid of this thing. It is a pain in the butt, and I don't have the payload integration systems figured out for it. But, you know, maybe we can go through and have part optimizations, you know? There can be part optimizing to bring the cost of this thing down. I think that, you know, that probably might be the right way to do this. Shelve it for now. I don't want to. It's really close to being operational. I just really need to find a way to get payload into the dang thing. I think what we really need to start doing is we need to pick up where we left off. We need to start going back to the moon. The question is, we need to flesh out all the architecture. Because no matter what we're using here, no matter if we're using this, or if we use a Freedom rocket or whatever, we still need to kind of finalize all that out. Now, I have a lander out there that we can use, and basically the architecture focuses around transfer stages. And with this thing, we can bring the transfer stages back and forth, which is actually kind of cool because I can land stuff that's been launched into space with this thing. It has what's called down mass capability, you know? So this might not be the worst thing to do. It might not be the worst thing to stop using because I can save cash by bringing the stages back down and filling them up with fuel and then sending them back up. Simultaneously, or conversely, we could just launch more fuel into space with this thing and just keep the transfer stages refueled. But bringing them up and down actually might be a good way to conclude the missions in general. So, what's the average turnaround time? I could probably, I don't know, Benno, what the turnaround is for this thing, to be 100% honest with you. I have no freaking clue because I don't have an integration machine made for this thing. I don't have any way to put payload in. And don't get me wrong, that shouldn't be too incredibly hard to make, but that is just another part it's another part that we have to add, and it's more things that I need out there, you know? It's more things that I need out by the actual launch pad, but... Can't reuse the Freedom rocket crane? The bridge crane rocket guy? Dude, believe it or not, now that I'm looking at this, like, you know, I was thinking build a freaking crane that goes with the launch pad, so something that's like wide. I don't think we even need to do that. I honestly think that literally something that looks like a mate-demate device might be the right move here. So build the mate-demate device, have a way to align this thing on the MDD, right? We can use the payload bay as a datum for alignment. And instead of, you know, brackets to lift the shuttle up and down, you just put a bridge crane there instead. I actually think that that's a good idea. We should... Yeah, that really won't be many... And I'm not just saying that. That really won't be many parts. I could even make it into one vehicle. I could basically build it off the jet truck. Well, not build it off of the jet truck, but you get the idea. Yeah, that's actually not a bad way to do this. I mean, how many parts am I realistically thinking? 300-400 parts for the reintegration thing? And, you know, we could basically put a spot with rails right here, back a payload bay truck up to it, right? Bridge crane will be in the neutral position here. It can accept payloads, right? Pick them up and then put them in. Or we could even do it MDD style, right? I'll have rails underneath this thing. We align the payload. We pick the dang payload up. We pull this thing in like the mate-demate device on the shuttle. And then just, I don't even need a bridge crane. We just make something that goes up and down. Or just, yeah, I mean, yeah. That's actually a really good idea. Hey, Gilmere, what's up? Dude, that crane won't be too many parts. Let me check something here real quick. How many parts was the MDD? Let me go into the engineering mode thing. Yeah, it'll be like the mate-demate device. Seriously. And this thing will be the 747, right? Oh, the game froze, by the way. I'm just wondering how we're really going to get this right with the pad. I built something similar to the MDD here a long time ago, and it was with Kraken Tech. I just really want to see how many parts that thing actually is, just off the top of my head. 180 parts. And that's with 317 parts with Kraken tech. Yep, alright. So that basically will make an MDD style crane for this. That's not a bad way to do things. Yeah, I got you, Smooth, yeah. How will you lift the SSTO up with the MDD overhead, or will the MDD move? No, you're thinking about that wrong. Nil, this is the 747. It doesn't leave the ground. No. We don't leave the ground here. That's not how that works. The payload gets lifted up. This thing gets driven in under it, and then we drop the payload in. So you don't lift the SSTO up at all. I'm not making the MDD to move this thing around. I'm making the MDD to load payload onto the back of this thing, like the NASA's real mate-demate device loads the shuttle payload onto the 747. See what I'm saying? That's actually not a bad idea, man. Oh, I mean like rotate it up to prepare it for launch. I mean, Sean, we could just make the mate-demate device the tow vehicle. Why not? I mean, worst case scenario is that we just keep using the jet truck. Hellfish, I ideally would want the integration building out of render range of that pad, 2.4 kilometers away. What is this mate-demate device that you're talking? So, ever wonder how they got the space shuttle onto the back of the 747? They use this thing. This thing is called an MDD, or a mate-demate device. It literally picks the space shuttle up, right? And puts it onto the back of the 747, just like that. How far is the SPH from the pad? Not too close. So originally they did it with a bunch of cranes when the shuttle program first came around. They did it with cranes, like Franken crane with Starship. Same idea. And then they built the MDDs, these things. Actually, there was a modular one that could be packed up. There's a modular mate-demate device that could be packed up like a crane. That was at Palmdale. And then that was going to go to Vandenberg, but they ended up not doing that. There is the modular one right here. That's the modular mate-demate device. This is what we'd base this off of. And then we'll put the payload where the shuttle is. And then the SSTO will roll underneath it. Like the 747 in this picture, we'll load the payload this way. I think this is actually I should have done this with a small SSTO. This is a much better system than trying to integrate right on the pad like what we're doing. We'll get way less pad drift this way. That's the idea, MGB. Yep. So you want to use one to push the SSTO, or will it be stable? I agree, Rocket Guy. Keeping it out of render range is the right move. We're not redesigning the big boy at all, Wookie. Dude, I was in a super pissy mood yesterday. I was just not feeling it. I did not feel good. I just needed to play Far Cry and shoot at people for like hours, and that's what I did. Now I feel great. I'm good. I don't know. I don't even want to bother unpacking why that made me feel better. Let's just not open that can of worms. So making a mate-demate device for the big SSDO could basically give me, you know, a payload integration device for not very much parts. That's actually a good idea. We still gonna shuttle style refurbish the pad? Well, Jackery, here's the thing. Yesterday I was thinking about, the way I was thinking about it is building a similar style crane as the small SSDO, one that moves around on the pad. That, coupled with how much the pad drifts and everything, and that crane's gonna need to be gigantic, it just didn't make sense. I'm like, why am I doing this? This is a waste of time. And the truth is, EJ yesterday was right. It's a waste of time, dude. That crane is gonna be ridiculous. The pad's gonna need to be turned around all the time. I'm gonna have to replace it every time. This keeps the pad out of render range. So this basically only puts the pad in range when we're going to launch. That should theoretically not drift the hydraulics as much. And there is some misalignment issues with the pad that we do need to fix. Yeah, RJ, there you go. I don't know what that means, Pythos, but okay. It's the Cougars, yeah. Long story short, I can make this work. We can make this work. I know we can make this work. You know, yesterday I was talking about maybe I'm just in a bad mood. Maybe I'm just annoyed for whatever reason. Just some days wake up and you're annoyed. I don't know why. We can make this work. I can polish this thing up. We do need to fix a couple of things here and there with the pad. And then if we push for work with this, we should only have really low frame rates when we're near the pad. But that's only for what, 30 minutes at best, you know? And if I can iron out the integration and really get that dialed in, then fix a couple of things here and there with the pad, optimize the operations, and Hellfish, I'm not repeating that out loud. You can't say it out loud. You'll jinx the guy. What are the mass margins like on Big Chungus? 20 up, 20 down, Wookie. If you're talking about payload capacity. Mass margins, it's about 300 tons with nothing in it. I think it's, well, it says 291 right there. But that, take the jet truck out. So let's say like 280 tons dry, 1,300 tons with fuel and payload. She's heavy. Very heavy. Is there any way to Kerbal rate this thing? Panta, I'd fly Kerbals on it right now. Oh, this thing is super safe, dude. What are you talking about? The only snafu, like, okay, hear me out. And I'm not trying to toot my own damn horn here, okay? Like, the reason why most of this worked on the first try is because of the small SSTO. The small SSTO failed a bunch of times, right? I crashed that thing a lot. We crashed one into the water. We crashed one into the desert. We crashed one into a mountain. We crashed those things everywhere, right? I figured out the re-entry profile with that thing, right? The first time I launched one of these things, literally everything went fine. And then we botched the landing. And then the second time I launched one of these things, literally everything went fine again. I landed it on the runway, and then I landed on the runway. It was a 100% successful mission. But I greased the landing. I showed that you could land this thing even with its structural flaw. You could still land it, right? And then the third and the fourth mission proved that the landing gear had problems. And then we needed to fix the landing gear. Guys, this thing is pretty much end-to-end proven. I'm not afraid of putting Kerbals on it. I'm really not. We could. I'd have to bake the crew integration systems, but we could do it. Okay, but no reason to worry about a few extra parts for the payload mating. No, that's nothing. Reagan, 13er. Thanks, man. Yeah, Toothless, it's almost like that, yeah. That burned down, fell over, then fell into swamp with the fourth one, lad. That stayed up. How's your voice doing? I'm A-okay. So, okay. let's think about this the opposite way that we thought about from yesterday. Yesterday, I was like, there's so much to do. We have so much left to do. It works, but there's so much left to do. All right, let's think about it the opposite. What do we have left to do to get this thing proven end to end? I need the payload integration, mate demate device, right? We got to build that one. That's probably the build that I'll pick for Tuesday. For Tuesday, we'll probably just do Kerbal in the morning and Kerbal in the afternoon. So Kerbal Space News Kerbal, so I can get that. We can get the MDD figured out completely. We have to develop a payload bay integration system for this, so a way to be able to place payloads in and pick them out very quickly, like what we did with the small SSTO. Do we want to be able to install a robotic arm? Is that something we would want to do? If so, how the heck is that going to connect to things? How are we going to store it? Are we going to store it like the shuttle? Is that going to make a difference? Got to figure that stuff out. Why did the shuttle carrier aircraft have these horizontal stabilizers? It's because why did it have those extra? Those are vertical stabilizers, Reagan. So you're talking about these things right there. Those are vertical stabilizers. They put those there because it turns out when you have a brick strapped to the top of your airplane, it blocks the air and the rudder doesn't work very well. So with the shuttle kind of in the way, they have turbulent air going over the vertical stabilizer. So what they ended up doing was installing these extra vertical stabilizers out there. Now, the rudder still does work. It works fine. Obviously, they operated this thing literally the entire shuttle program. They operated 905. It never had any problems, right? However, the rudder does work, but when I mean rudder, I mean the moving part. But the V-stab doesn't work very well because there's a shuttle in the way blocking the air, right? Now, you can't use the shuttles. You can't use the shuttle. That doesn't work because it's not. I don't think the shuttle's control surfaces were powered on when it was being transported. The shuttle's basically in standby, right? It wasn't either that or it just wasn't powered at all. I'm sure they wouldn't totally unpower it, but that's another story. They put these here to prevent what's called side slip. Long story short, you have turbulent air flowing over your vertical stabilizer. Your plane will just basically drift around like this. Those extra vertical stabilizers there make sure the plane goes in the direction that the pilot wants it to go into. Yeah, it doesn't just basically do that. How crazy of an idea would it be to just pull off the current bay and make the whole bay modular like the real design was supposed to be? I don't think the real one was supposed to do that. I think that was a concept from the real one, Wookiee, but the real one had a fixed pooched payload bay like this. And even if we were going to do that, dude, how? This thing clips into everything. It's clipping into fuel tanks everywhere. There's no way I'd be able to precisely place this thing. I mean, with that being said, I could. More show the shuttle acts as a destabilizing body, creating unstable dynamic modes requiring extra tail surface area. That's the nerdy way of saying it. Yep. Thank you, Rocket Guy, but I like it better my way. Lord of War. Nah, I'm just kidding, man. So, figuring out... guys, I'm not sure if at this point in time, because we know this system flies, maybe in a future variant we could go with a payload bay that we could plop off, so we could put like a fairing up here. So this thing would end up looking like maybe in a future version we'll have something like Shuttle C, where it was just a big freaking fairing on the side. This was a concept that NASA came up with. They basically made an expendable variant of the shuttle, right? And that expendable variant was basically just a nose cone with a payload bay, and then the tail section of a shuttle with its OMS pods. They ended up not doing this because throwing away RS-25s ended up being way too expensive. But yeah, I know. Funny story. But the shuttle could have flown with a gigantic payload fairing on its side. It was a concept that was introduced. It could work. Why wouldn't it? You could just put a big freaking fairing on the side of the stack. We could do something like that. We could do Jebstar C. I don't see why we couldn't. We don't have to worry about throwing away RS-25s. We don't have that problem. So in that regard, it works more like... In that regard, it works more like Energia Polius. Just legging something on the side. Yeah, that was one of the later concepts, Wiki. I think they were, if I'm remembering right, and keep in mind, it's been a little while since I've looked through the NTRS stuff. It was either that or the pooched payload bay. I think now that I'm really thinking about it, I think that the project was stopped. They stopped the program when they were kind of deciding which one or the other, but I forget. I don't know. We'd have to go find it. But yeah, they were gonna do this with Venture Star, which makes more sense. You get much more control authority or less side slip with these control surfaces like this. I forget why I didn't do that. Why I didn't do this way. I think it's because it looks stupid, but... A shuttle C with engine recovery via something like smart reuse would have been cool. We tested that in engineering mode a long time ago, Admiral. Like, I think in 2019, I used Collins, and I did that exact same thing with Collins. The problem that I was really running into is that it's not very stable. The heat shields, if you're gonna do something like that, you can't put the heat shield in front of the dang engines. So, I know what you're thinking. And this is exactly what I thought. You know, you have... No, I just want the damn picture. You have this, right? And you're thinking put the heat shield right here, right? And do smart reuse. Problem is, these are heavy. It wants to fly engine nozzles first. So you'd have to find a way to get the heat shield to kind of fold up and over the back. I'm not sure how to do that. The other thing that I tried was having small deployable wings. Basically trying to make this into a fat oblong dream chaser. Also didn't work. Didn't generate any lift. Even with the wings, it just sank like a brick. Yeah, Rocket Guy, we tried doing that. Just the mass issues. The wings on this thing would have to be like back here. You'd have to put the wings somewhere where the body flap is, dude. So if you fly like heat shield up front, you'd need to stabilize it like a it needs like a thermal protection system that looks like a Dream Chaser almost, I guess. But you'd need like wings out here because the center of mass on something like this is back here on this aft segment with the 3 RS-25s. Those are the heaviest things by far. It's not all the plumbing, right? So the center of mass is like over here somewhere. So the wings would have to be like hanging off the back, dude. It would look like Bullet Bill. Yeah, the heat shield would have to be on the bottom. Yeah, that might be better. How much mass would you be adding by putting re-entry fuel? Oh, not much. Is this a real picture? Yes. The Shuttle C entered mock-up phase, guys. This was a mock-up at I don't know. They were gonna do this. Yeah, this was a good. This got past like preliminary design. They made mock-ups of it. Those are the dud ohms pods that flew on the shuttles when they left the factory, and those are real engines. They showed how this could be done. Just making shuttle aft segments like this. You basically just made the back of the shuttle. They would use this. The idea is that you use RS-25s or SSMEs that are at EOL, end of life. So basically an engine that's worn out. It's no good anymore. Instead of refurbishing it, you just you put it on this and you fly it expendable. Hey, Fragment. Is this mock-up still around anywhere? I have no clue. Dude, I don't know. That's the only picture of it that I've ever seen. I know that the shuttle MBTA is around, which is close. It's close to that. That's just a shuttle, the back of a space shuttle. This is what they use to green run the space shuttle, right? That's what that thing is. It's the shuttle's engine section. I don't know. This seems to be the only picture, but dude, you'd have to go looking around. I don't know. There's Buran and there's Clipper. Cool. Hey, I don't know, dude. I'm gonna bet dollars to donuts it probably was scrapped. Also scrapped. Actually, that thing don't look bad with those things out there like that. That looks actually pretty rad. It don't look bad. It look rad. I'd have to put something in there to fix that, but yeah, let's just fly it like this. Yeah, basically that, Thomas. Yeah. I mean, Rocket Guide, what I built ended up looking like, actually, it ended up looking like Clipper. Actually, yeah. This was the idea of making a partially reusable, like, space shuttle that, like, with Soyuz parts. It would have to look like this. Like, the 3 main engines would be right here. That's what it would need to look like. Clipper is actually pretty, yeah, that's actually not bad. I mean, it's doable. I just didn't get the mass right. And Rocket Guy, I'm not saying that it's impossible by any means either. You see how Clipper has the center of lift is like way back over here, right? I'm not saying it's impossible. When I built it, I just didn't get it right. But it's doable. Did I miss the state of the mission mode? Victory, I basically decided that I was just being yesterday. It's not going to take much more to get this thing operational and get it to where, you know, we can actually use it semi-reliably. I'm just, like, even sitting here and looking at this thing without, like, 2 hours of sleep and cranky because I'm sick and hate everything and hate the world right now. Dude, all I need to do is, there ain't much, the pad doesn't need much more. I think we can do it. I think I'm going to stick with this. So, therefore, what I'm going to do over the weekend, I'm going to give myself some homework here. I'm going to come up with the end-to-end architecture for these missions, and then on Tuesday, I'll basically throw the stream in. We're going to go back to the moon. I think that was the overall intention, right? We're going to go back to the moon, utilizing this and the small SSTO to move people around. And when we do, I think what we should vote on is deadlines for 5 lunar missions, 5 lunar demonstrations, again. And, and how much that's going to cost. Hey, B-Natch, long time, dude. Maybe a shortened version of Zephyr. I'm an idiot. I can't spell it right. Hey, trains. I like trains. Yeah, Rocket Guy, that's pretty much how it would end up looking. It would have to look like something like that, but you'd need some kind of deployable nose cone. I'd like to add, though, that this conversation talking about, like, smart reuse shuttle engines is not, that this is not what we're doing. This is just a separate conversation. Also, the XS1 should have been a thing. Tren! Tren, me gusta tren. Wookie, we could do that, but we'd need a ramp to get up there or some kind of elevator. I think just the mate demate device is the right way to do this. I'm literally going to make a mate demate device. It will not be more than 300 parts. Like 300 parts is a gross overestimation. I might even literally take the design from my MDD and just fix it. Hey Artyom, what's going on? Apparently the Shuttle C mock-up used the MPTA according to this thread. I still have my lander left over from the DART program, Ryan. It's still out there. How's your voice feeling? I'm okay. I'm getting there. It was at Marshall, and what's left of it today. Actually, sorry, I'm just reading this thread. In my opinion, Shuttle C should have been developed first to deliver satellites and stuff to orbit. That's what should have happened post-Challenger. No, man, Shuttle C should have been made with the shuttle at the same time so they could test it unmanned. Oh, that's actually a really good idea. Why didn't you do this, NASA? What are you doing? Did we ever figure out why Boeing dropped the XS-1 DARPA contract? Now, Phil, I know I say that these are separate companies and one doesn't affect the other very much, but the fiasco from the 737 coupled with OFT-1, and that's right from somebody that works there. Yeah. 737 MAX basically put the program on life support, and OFT-1 Starliner pulled the plug on that. Yeah, Wiki, that's right. Yeah. My brain is a bit underwhelming today, and I can't remember. Does anyone know what game they're... It's a Seto. Duck. Yeah, and I'm going to get mad when I see SLS taking off knowing that Discovery's engines are going into the ocean. Don't worry about it, Ivan. Ivan, believe me, as a shuttle guy, that's going to suck. That is going to suck. It's really annoying. Especially since those engines are made to be reused. The newer RS-25s that NASA's working on, the ones that are designed to be expendable, don't have a problem with the... Yeah, eat those into the ocean, who cares? But the ones that flew into space, man, it's gonna hurt to see. However... Give me a second. However, I'll trade it for that. I'll trade shuttle engines for this. Sure. That's fine. Yeah, that's what hurts. Just use the new ones, man. Yeah, I know. The new ones aren't made yet. As long as I get pictures like this, I'm good. Maybe you have like a couple of lunar starships just sitting in the background. That's the future I'll trade shuttle engines for. And believe me, I won't trade shuttle engines for much. I love, dude, those things are... I mean, they've flown a lot, most of them have flown to space 3 or 4 times. First truly reusable engine. Not reusable, refurbishable, but first engine that flew on a rocket 2 times and didn't get yeeted into the ocean, right? Like that, it's a big part of history. I think those things should be in museums, but I think those things should be on the orbiters if you really want my honest opinion. But I'll trade it for boots on the ground on the moon. That's fine. Anyway, so fellas, what I'm going to do, and I'm probably going to work on this on Monday. I am going to build all this stuff out, and then on Tuesday, we're going to work out all the kinks on the pad, and we're going to vote. I'll have this entire thing budgeted out, or at least a relative budget, and we're going to get our 5 missions ready to go. How many engines are on this thing? 16? You guys got to understand, the shuttle engines are designed, they're shuttle engines. They're designed to fly all the way into orbit. The SLS core stage is no exception. The SLS core stage is flying all the way into space. You can't just jettison the engines out and have them parachute back down. They need a heat shield. They need some type of thermal protection system. Now, am I saying that SLS couldn't have some type of thermal protection system on it to get those engines back down? Sure.
Discovery.
Yeah, of course it could. You could basically convert SLS's core stage into a giant shuttle if you really wanted to, and then make something like Buran Energia and have it piggyback things. We already know that the core stage could take something like that. But now you took your launch vehicle that can move 100 tons into space, right? SLS Block 1 can do 100 tons. You could stack another Orion and another ICPS on top of the Orion and ICPS that's on there right now, and SLS could put that into space. That's how powerful that core stage and those 5-segment boosters are. You're taking away probably 30 to 40 tons of payload mass. So now you have a partially reusable vehicle again that can put 60 tons into space. As opposed to a not reusable vehicle that can put 100 tons into space. Hey Dino, what's going on? DJ Voice Hype, what's up, Orange? As you say that. I haven't been able to watch for a month, so I don't really know what we've been doing. I've been kind of doing a bunch of other, like, just other games and stuff, Dino. But I did get the big SSTO working. This thing works. End-to-end test. It works just fine. Could stick an inflatable heat shield in between the 4 engines. That would work with the engines wanting to go plasma first. Okay. Now you have something that's as heavy, almost as heavy as, like, the space shuttle coming back down. How do you land it? How does it go into, what, are you going to punch it into the water? It hit the water going like 200-300 miles an hour. Parachutes aren't going to slow you down either. That's a funny way to say worse and more expensive than Starship. Yeah, Wookie, that's the other thing. That's the other thing that I don't really give 2 craps. Like, at one point I probably would have cared that they're putting those shuttle engines into the ocean. I mean, it does suck. But I want Starship to come around and just absolutely slap everyone that said that reusability is not practical. Everyone that said reusability is not practical after the shuttle, oh, reusability doesn't make sense. The space shuttle proved that. I want Starship to come around and just use its flappy wings to just slap everybody across the face. Don't worry. You know, the shuttle engines will go out with a Viking funeral. That's cool. Raptors will prove that the shuttle was the right idea. And Starship can slap you with its wings. It'll slap you. Shuttle couldn't do that. Talking about putting parachutes on stages for recovery, unless you do know exactly what you're talking about, is a sign that you play too much KSP. You can't just attach more parachutes to things, guys. Parachutes are expensive. They're expensive, and they're heavy in real life. You know what, Rock Guy? You just get slapped by the chopsticks too. That's fine. Starship will vindicate the shuttle. It will vindicate the shuttle, and it'll show that a reusable system is the right move. AJ, you want to go in with me to purchase a fully curated high definition set of every film magazine on the Saturn V? How much? It's over 2 terabytes of footage. $450. Sure. Yeah, sure. What do you want to do? Halvesies? I'll go halvesies on that. Why not? Will there be any way to cut down on the number of refueling trips Starship will need to get to the moon? Ryan, the amount of refueling, and this is what, nobody's ever addressed this. The amount of refueling that Starship needs to get to the moon is entirely dependent on what you want to get to the surface of the moon. Do we honestly think that Lunar Starship's payload bay is going to be 100 tons worth of stuff? There's not a chance in hell that that's 100 tons. If Lunar Starship, in its pressurized volume, has 10 tons of airlocks, beds, food, computers, whatever, Starship is not going to need to be refueled 10 times to get it there. No way. Not a chance. It depends. Delta V is Delta V, man. It depends on what you're doing. Wiki, I showed a long time ago. Starship's usable volume is about 1,000 cubic meters. You can fill half of that with lead, and Starship could still get it into space. You can fill half of it with lead. We did the math out. I used to say you could fill all of it with lead, but that's not entirely true. About half. There's no way NASA is going to find a way to put 100 tons of stuff on that thing. And keep in mind, SpaceX's estimates are with Starship, of Lunar Starship using 10 to 15, having 10 to 15 refueling flights is with max payload. At least if I remember reading it correctly, that's what it is. Okay, I heard something about Congress saying they can launch SLS on $1 billion. Total cost involved, firework, yes. NASA's projected in a recent RFI that's come out that if they employ SLS in mass and launch it up to 4 times a year, launch costs can go down as much. Launch costs per launch can go to about $350 million. So on par with a Delta IV Heavy. Yeah. It's $1 billion for these experimental flights, firework. Artemis 1, Artemis 2, Artemis 3, because NASA, it's total cost involved. That means the design, development, all the facilities that SLS uses, all the electric bill, all the maintenance, cutting the grass for all those facilities, keeping the lights on, air conditioning, all the employees, all the raw materials needed, the construction, engine procurement, assembly, integration, and launch. That's what that $1 billion is. Maintenance for the crawler transport, maintenance for the VAB, maintenance for the mobile launcher, testing for the mobile launcher, development of the mobile launcher. That's what that $1 billion price tag is, but that's only for the first 3 flights. If NASA incorporates a public-private partnership model like they did during the shuttle program, NASA's own internal costs for an SLS launch in the future, operating with 2 mobile launchers, launching 4 times a year, is about $350 million a launch. It's almost like people say that as an excuse for fodder for the SLS because they don't understand how NASA's development systems work. You heard it here first. That's crazy, Hellfish. And the more we launch it, Chaos, the cheaper it gets. Block buy, I've always said this, economies of scale make sense. They make sense at Walmart, they make sense with rockets. It doesn't matter. You buy more, you can reduce costs per unit the more you buy by like 15%. And that was also in NASA's RFI for privatizing SLS operations. Imagine if we got 6 a year. Dude, 6 a year, believe it or not, Chaos, that's too much. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not going to say no to 6 a year. I don't think they can turn the pad around that fast. So, Chaos, think about it like this. Every time, how long does a lunar mission take, right? Lunar mission takes, let's think about it. about 3 days out, however much time you're spending on the moon, 3 days back. Take the Apollo missions, for instance. They took about 2 weeks, give or take. I mean, it's that's like, you know, from like, let's get into our plane, fly to Kennedy, and then launch out to the moon, on the moon, back, comes down. That's like including lunar surface operations. That's just for Apollo stuff. Okay? So think about it like this. You got about a month to put the stack together. You know, another 2 weeks to roll it out to the pad. You know, another 2 weeks to do tests or whatever you need, right? And then 2 weeks for a mission, right? So that's 2.5 months. And then 2 weeks of downtime after the rocket launches to restore the pad, make sure everything's good. You roll the ML back, start stacking another one. SLS launching every 3 months is fine. Or every 4 months, totally okay. You get minimal downtime on the pads. You could probably try to manage 5. 6 would be too much. There's no way they could do that with one pad. You'd need to build another pad. Remember, they pawned off 39A to SpaceX, which I love SpaceX, guys. I love them. I love that Dragon's doing everything. I love it. There was such crazy... Ares 5 was supposed to launch from 39A, so forgive me for being a little bitter about that. Now imagine if we can double our launch window from the surface of the moon. From the surface of the moon, that would be crazy cheap for return on investment. Yeah, 4 times the launch. 4 times the launch, Chaos. 4 times a year at maximum projected from... This is from NASA internal. This is from the RFI that they put out. 500 mil a pop, even 500 mil for SLS, and that's either Block 1 or Block 1B. 500 mil for SLS, that's included with Orion and everything. That's really, really good. With the options to do additional missions for cargo. I'm telling you, NASA has some big plans. Bill is doing a really good job. Like, when does SpaceX's lease expire on 39? Not sure. Night, my guy. Hope KSP goes well. Yeah, we got to get ready for racing. So, fellas, I am going to work on, speaking of end-to-end architecture to the surface of the moon, I'm reactivating our lunar program starting next week. We're picking up where we left off. We're going back into space, and I'm going to normalize SSTO operations, even if that means refurbishing the stupid pad every time. I've decided I don't give a frick. I've worked way too hard on this SSTO to not give it that final push to get it operational. I want fully reusable spaceflight with this thing. I want it. We have an awesome capability from this SSTO. As a vehicle, it's immaculate right now. The only thing it needs is a payload integration system. The vehicle operates immaculately. It works great in space. It can do RPOD in space just fine. Like, if I put a docking port on it, it can rendezvous just fine. I tested out all the systems. End to end, it works. It's easy to tow around. I can tow it right back to the pad. We already showed that. We can tow it around. I can push it up ramps. So if we have to tow it off of the runway and take it to a payload integration building that's not near the pad, Jet Truck has no problem doing that. I just need to work out some kinks with the pad here and there. We'll work on the alignment systems and the payload integration systems next week, and we're kicking the lunar program back into high gear. All right? We'll use the big SSTO to launch stuff into space, and we'll I'll reactivate Complex 3, and we'll get the small SSTO ready to go. Small SSTO for moving people, and probably the small SSTO for moving people only from now on. I'll probably just keep the crew pod in there and just fix it inside of the payload bay and call it a day. Yeah, I'm kicking this into high gear. I'm really annoyed with myself that I considered throwing the towel in yesterday. I put way too much time into this stupid thing to get it to not work. This is reusable Collins. This is what it is. I've been chasing this. I've been chasing a goal like this for fully reusable vertical takeoff, horizontal landing, orbiter SSTOs. I've been chasing this for like 5 years. That's what I was thinking about it last night after I stopped streaming. I'm like, no. My dream has been to make a fully reusable space shuttle for a long time. You know, we're getting this done. Oh yeah, starting next week. So what's the acronym? You're exploring space, Jaeger. That's the acronym. Yes. I gotta start racing now, guys, but KSP is going to MC. KSP is going to so tomorrow's schedule tentatively right now is Minecraft, Space News, GTA Hunt the Streamer for the mid-hour segment, because Crew 3 is where Hunt the Streamer should be, and I'm not skipping Hunt the Streamer because people really look forward to that. So I was thinking we'll start on Tuesday. Yeah. I might even pop in with an all Monday Kerbal stream. Maybe. That depends. If the weather's good, I'm going to go work on Tough Enough. Because I love that truck. It's a good truck. So, we're going to work on the Minecraft airport tomorrow. And, we're going to work on the Minecraft airport tomorrow. And I don't know, man. Maybe we should just go right into KSP. Maybe we should do Minecraft, KSP, GTA, Crew. I might be able to bust out the payload integration device in in a couple hours tomorrow. Shouldn't be that big of a deal. I think that's what I'm going to do. I want this done. And I want to show that I'm not just saying, oh, we'll do it next week. Let's work on it. We'll work on it tomorrow. We'll do Space News while I'm playing KSP. Yeah. Yeah. Let's do it. That's what we're going to do. So, I've decided we're going to push through with this SSTO program. Don't let me change my mind again. We're going to push through. And I'm going to keep pushing through with this program until we have enough for something else, like rapiers or whatever. We just got to work out a couple of kinks with that damn pad. And Anth already found a couple of things that got knocked out of alignment in the craft file. If we can figure that stuff out, and I can go and tinker with that pad to get it to not drift or bend so we can hit that locking pin. That with the payload integration is... yeah, that's going to be pretty good. Tomorrow, the movement works so it locks easier. Use an action group to lock to avoid the toggle is your recommendation. Let's get all those tolerance figured out, Anth. Okay. Cool. I'm looking at it now. Yeah, I see it. All right. Yeah, that's why, remember, Anth, I had problems with friction controls on the SSTO when we were coming into land.